Castlefield Gallery is 40 years old this year, and we've been doing a series of exhibitions and events and public programme to celebrate our history and hopefully look forward to our bright future. And as part of that, we felt it was important to recognise that amongst the artists we're working with, the people that are visiting us, the people that are working with us in lots of different ways, depending on who those people are, they may experience and understand and feel history differently. We also felt it was important, especially when looking back at some of the articles that were written about Castlefield Gallery in 1984, we noticed that some of the remarks about the kind of difficult economic, political situation in the 80s is perhaps frustratingly similar to the situation we find ourselves in now. And we felt that this opportunity, bringing together the work of Theo and Hope and Jeffrey, was an opportunity through their work to kind of confront history differently, to remake it, rethink it, reimagine it, and perhaps find a way to break out of the feedback loop of the present and maybe perhaps bring about a future or multiple futures.
There's a lot about me in this show, in the sense that the materials that I've used and how I've manipulated them, the 3D printing is a baseline, but then that's given me the models to then push it to further directions. And yes, there are hints. Ceramics, I was a ceramicist. Glass, I was a glass maker, caster, and then it moves on from there. But mainly, I use 3D printing now as a tool to get to where I want to get to. I like to think that this show shows really the past, present and future of how I work and what I'm working with. And I think I've thought about the title, 40 Years of the Future, where should we be now? This is it, this is me at the moment. I went to the Freud Museum because I wanted to be able to scan the items named the grubby gods on Freud's desk. But the whole idea was to scan these items and then put them through the lens of a 3D scanner to then make them, as I say, defamiliarized, but in Freud's case it would be the uncanny, so what's known becomes the other. And I think 3D scanning and the way that I work allows me to do this with the technology that we have. The work is a comment on the idea of minority, displacement, anti-Semitism. You know, we are a minority, we're a religious minority, we're also immigrants. We've been shifted from one space to another throughout history. That's what this is about, really, in a nutshell. But I'm using Moses and Freud and my grandfather as these metaphors for it.
The image material that I work with in this work is, it's sort of obtained sort of consciously and unconsciously. So I make pictures, buy pictures, collect them. There's like a human algorithm to it, if you like, where it's like, it's impulsive, it's random, it's like it's never really done with too much thought. I guess the whole thing with the work is like finding ways of like re-energizing resurfaced images, if you like, finding them and then how they fit into sort of the ideas that I'm working with, and then finding processes which sort of, bring them to life again or allow them to be reimagined in like a modern context, basically. I guess with like the use of materials and like how the images are used and worked with, is all dictated by the particular sort of character and language of the original picture. So that in many ways dictates the way in which I'll approach that image or combine that with other images, or how I work with it. Or I mean, sometimes I'll strip the image from its original context, I'll rescale it, rework it, reprint it. It's all about sort of finding the right strategies to work with specific images to convey the messages and ideas that I'm interested in at that time. So with these assemblage pieces down here, so they're loosely based on a John Hoskins report that was finished in 1977, which basically was like this roadmap to how to fix Britain's broken economy. First and foremost, what made it so fascinating was the way in which it was presented. It's not like any conventional report, it looks more like a complex wiring diagram. And that was something that immediately I saw as like an aesthetic sort of cue that I was interested in. In this other piece, Dreams versus Nightmares, you see like the reverse side of the imagery from that period. So you've got images of great optimism of new technology that were made in the same year. Like the car depicted in that piece there is like, it won European Car of the Year in the same year that this report came out. So you had, on the outside, you had this incredible image of optimism, of like great human endeavour and new technology and engineering, but underneath the skin of that you've got this like structural problems in the economy and in politics.
I tend to work with film predominantly and enjoy moving across different formats. So my work at the minute moves between 16mm archival, found footage, digital, and I've recently been working more with like visual technologies like LiDAR scanning and photogrammetry. The focus of my work is normally on colonial inheritances in landscapes, so thinking about resource extraction and how these things entangle with our day-to-day lives. For 40 Years of the Future, I'll be showing I'll Be Back, which takes a myth as its starting point and leads on to consider institutional collecting practices, cataloguing, how we think about truth and its interaction with power, and the potential of myth. I've been thinking about Western understandings of man, so Enlightenment conceptions of what it means to be human and how this entangled with the beginnings of empire and processes of cataloguing and collecting, which you can see what people mostly understand in relation to plants and animals, so with like the Swedish botanist Carl Linnaeus. But what people often don't know is that he also categorized the human, and he marginalized bodies were essentially considered lesser than human. And I was really interested in like how these functions of cataloging served the pursuit of empire. And at the same time as looking at that, I was thinking about, okay, if that's the case in that sense, then what are all the other ways that we can think about living otherwise? So I'd been thinking about maroon societies in the Caribbean, where my dad's from. Then I came across this story of Francois Macandal and this metamorphosis that I just found, very fascinating and wanted to think about it more.
The University of Salford Art Collection is a modern and contemporary collection. We're quite unusual in that we grow the collection almost exclusively through new commissions, so we very rarely purchase existing work. What's really important to us is supporting that kind of artist development journey, and that's one of the reasons why we've got kind of lots of strategic partners, but we've had a partnership with Castlefield for 10 years now on a kind of range of artist development schemes, including new commissions like this one. So we've commissioned new work by Jeff and Theo for this show, and elements of the works that are on in the gallery will be acquired into our permanent collection as a legacy of the project.